For me, learning is one ingredient for a fulfilling life and keeping a young mind. It's a way of creating something within you that wasn't there before, a never-ending process of becoming and growing. When learning a skill, one must decide how to learn it. For example, should I seek a teacher, a coach, a school, an online platform, YouTube videos, or should I just jump into the cold water and just figure it out while doing it? Today, we have so many options to learn something. When I was a kid, I would play my VHS tapes back and forth to learn martial arts moves from old Jackie Chan movies. Depending on the skills, some forms of learning have advantages over others. But what I find is that too many people are blaming the teacher or the system too soon, when in fact they're just not used to learning something new anymore. I mean, honestly, ask yourself, when was the last time you were a complete beginner at something? For some of us, it may have been back in university or even high school. And it certainly isn't fun to be the poorest performer in a room. So we tend to avoid the zone of a total beginner once we gain a certain level of proficiency at something. We may try out new hobbies for a short period, but never really commit to them. We live in a highly specialized society where many are specialists in one field, but very poor generalists. This doesn't mean that you should engage in 1,000 different skills where you only scratch the surface. But do you practice a handful of skills where you have different proficiency levels? Richard Feynman, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, was considered one of the greatest physicists of our time and a great teacher and a lifelong learner. He was known to be this playfully mischievous and curious person who kept learning new things until he died. Besides of being a great scientist and a great teacher, he was known to be a pretty accomplished painter, bongo player, and also a lockpicker. Being a lifelong learner makes you a more interesting person, but it also gives you mental calluses in dealing with being bad at something, and therefore less resistance in tackling new skills and an overall playful attitude towards learning. We often overrate short-term gratification and pleasant feelings over long-term progress. In a tweet from psychology professor Lisa Feldman Barrett, one of the most cited scientists in the world, she writes, "The most expensive tasks that brains do are 1. Moving our body, and 2. Learning something new. They have a metabolic cost that may feel unpleasant. So feeling bad doesn't always mean that something bad happened. You might just be doing something really hard." There is a Japanese term, shoshin, the beginner's mind. I spent a long time in the world of traditional martial arts, where this term was used very inflationary. Many so-called masters would preach shoshin without actually engaging in a practice where they would expose themselves as being poor, or in other words, as a beginner. Once you reach a certain proficiency level, you often gain more status. Unfortunately, this status often comes with a price tag. You find yourself entrapped in a golden prison where you need to protect your position and you're afraid of exposing yourself and your weaknesses. This issue is not limited to the world of traditional martial arts. You find it also in scientific communities, in business, or in other sports as well. But if you want to have a true beginner's mind, you need to accept the fact that you will suck. So a more pragmatic approach to the beginner's mind would be to categorize your skills into 3 buckets of different proficiency levels: beginner, intermediate, and expert. Now, with the skills you're practicing or you already acquired, place them into those 3 buckets. By the way, with skills, I mean every topic which require putting effort into it to acquire it. This also includes sub-skills within a broader practice, of course. Chances are that you may have one skill where you're on an expert level, a few where you're intermediate, but maybe no skill or nothing that you're practicing right now where you're a total beginner. To truly have a beginner's mind, I would always want to practice something where I'm a complete beginner. Having always something to practice where you are a beginner doesn't mean that you always have to find something completely new to do. It could also mean changing your environment or your peers. For example, if you're used to practicing on your own, you could find like-minded people who could give you new input. This could mean changing your home's gym to a calisthenics park or a regular gym, or just surround yourself with people who are better at you at every given field. So now that we have set our mind straight and we're ready to become a beginner again, let's talk about teachers and learning. I know, I get it. It's easier if someone would just tell me what I got to do. I don't want to go and figure things out myself. I just want to have the solution. I want a quick fix, a template for life, or a guru who I can follow and copy and to guarantee success and happiness. Thinking and finding solution for your particular problem or skill is hard. But it's true, there are situations where it doesn't make sense to figure everything out by yourself. Why always do it the hard way when there is an easy way? Templates and guidance from trusted teachers or sources can save me a lot of time, energy, and sometimes also pain. As a father, I wish to teach my children certain lessons so that they don't have to go through the same pain as I did. But I certainly don't want to make their lives too easy as well. So where do I draw the line between letting experience be the teacher or be the teacher? And as a lifelong learner, where do I seek guidance from a teacher, and when do I want to learn from my own experiences and mistakes? To answer these questions, let's break down the process of skill learning. There are always multiple ways to reach a goal, and the journey on your way to your destination, wherever it might be, should be enjoyable. Yes, it may be challenging, yes, you may want to quit, but in the end, chances are higher to reach your destination when you enjoy the journey. And a significant driver of joy is the sense of progress. And this is where the system or the skill learning process comes in place. Whether you learn from an online platform, a teacher, a mentor, or multiple sources, you want to have an overarching strategy to ensure and track your progress. I want to learn from teachers or sources with the best conversion rate to turn beginners into experts. So let's be honest, sometimes we value the status of a teacher more than the practical value. It's like they say, the best performers are not always the best teachers. So instead of asking yourself who is the best in a given field, ask yourself who can turn all sorts of students, old and young, talented, non-talented, into remarkable performers. Having a good process or system of learning a new skill is essential to put you on the path of steady progress. And that means progress should be a system and not a gamble. When you find yourself in the position where you put in the work but don't see any progress over a long period of time, you need to ask yourself, why? Maybe there's just no proper process integrated into your practice. Another essential part when learning a new skill is how often you run into mistakes and who points them out to you. Mistakes are necessary to improve. For some skills, it's very evident to know if you made a mistake. Other skills are a little more subtle to improve. Take something like dancing or movement, where you can make corrections while performing. It's not always easy to see your mistakes and correct them. So a significant step to speed up your skill learning is to find ways to know when you've made a mistake. Logically, either your teacher or yourself will point out an error. But the teacher isn't always available, and even if he is, there's no guarantee that he will A, spot your mistake, B, point to you to the mistake, and C, say to you how to correct it. So let's look at option number 2, you yourself as a teacher. Are you a valuable teacher for yourself? For this to be true, you must be able to answer the following questions. Do you know how good should look like or feel like? And do you have a way to compare your performance with this particular standard? When practicing on your own, trusting that you will automatically improve is not the best approach. So I like to share with you an example how I optimize my practice on my own. When practicing locomotion or kung fu, I start by practicing isolated elements where I can record myself. My goal here is to improve my form by comparing myself with the video of my trusted source material, whether it would be my teacher or an online platform. We all have proprioception, the sense of body movement and position related to ourselves and the environment. For example, we don't need to look at our feet to walk the stairs. We have a sense of where our foot is when taking the next step. But when the movements get more complex, our proprioception can play tricks on us. Maybe we think we're doing the movements as we imagine it in our head, but when we look at a video of ourselves, we see that we're doing it completely wrong. By filming myself, I can spot my mistakes more efficiently and at the same time sharpen my proprioception. Instead of practicing blindly, I do a set of isolated movements where I film myself. Look at the video during the rest time and always try to improve the quality of my movements on the next set. Over time, I don't need to film myself every time because I have a feeling of the essential cues. This way, I will have a much better understanding of my skills in a very short time, and therefore will also be able to ask better questions for my teacher. After a couple of weeks of dedicated practice of isolated elements, I can put them together and work on longer sequences. I still want to get a regular feedback via videos at this stage, but I also use other tools like a metronome, which is excellent to work on fluid motions. A metronome is also great because I don't need to stop practicing to correct my mistakes. To be honest, like most people, I'm not particularly eager to make mistakes, so I really hated to watch myself on video when I started to use it as a tool. Making too many mistakes is very depressing. Some people can take harsh critiques all the time and still work hard without getting discouraged. But most people will lose motivation when the road gets tough too quickly. Statistically, an optimal learning difficulty should be a level where you fail roughly 15% and thus succeed about 85% of all attempts. For me, who likes to push myself, this information was very counterintuitive. But I experienced this firsthand when I tried to learn the QDR all by myself. There are various progression levels to a skill like the QDR. And of course, I wanted to progress as fast as possible. So I ended up practicing a variation where I failed all the time and therefore plateaued for a long time. When I started my online coaching program of the Ido Portal method, my teacher would let me practice a variation that was 5 levels easier than the one I was practicing. I thought the exercise was way too easy because I succeeded in most of my attempts. But guess what? My QDR improved significantly. I actually improved so much that I made the same mistake twice and started to work on my one-arm QDR too early again. That's why I find having a good teacher or system that knows your current level so important. I hope this video is helping you to become a lifelong learner and optimizes your skill learning process. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a perspective on skill learning in general. So know the mechanics and you can tweak the system. Don't overestimate what you can accomplish in a week, but don't underestimate what you can accomplish in a year or two. Have good teachers, but also find creative ways to be your own teacher. See you in the next video, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if it's valuable to you, and keep learning. Bye.